Hi guys,
Hello, we're Cesar and Pam with cesarandpam.com.
grow your business without losing your soul or your family or your health in the process. And thank you for joining us. Thank you for checking out this recording. If you're watching it on YouTube, Facebook, or Instagram, we are trying to help. We're helping a lot of families build a business. And our niche is in the network marketing industries, but there are a lot of people that follow us on the Spanish-speaking market that have nothing to do with network marketing, but they have their own business and they want to learn how to grow their business without sacrificing the relationship with God, without having to sacrifice their marriage or their responsibilities as parents or their health or their finances, as we're going to talk about today. Because many times, as John Maxwell says, we end up climbing a ladder, and when you get to the top of a ladder, the ladder is against the wrong wall. So we have to be careful with that. And today we're going to talk about finances. We've been talking about all the other areas in the past few weeks. But today we're going to talk about the myths about debt. And we've all seen a toddler in a supermarket.
I remember when it was mine one time.
When?
I do.
Tell us.
I'm not going to say which child, but it wasn't my first. It wasn't my second. Anyways, we were at like a Walmart and went by this section with these little flashlights, and my child wanted one, and I said no, and they just started screaming, I want one.
I wasn't there, but I remember you telling me.
Oh, so we had talked about what would we do. We had seen kids do this before, and the parents are just like, oh, here, take this candy bar, you can have it, So we had decided ahead of time, if that ever happens, okay, you just leave the store. Anything you were going to buy, just leave it in the cart. Just go home and deal with the problem, right? So that was the plan, but it was agonizing walking from the back of Walmart all the way to the front with them crying and going down. And I remember the other, Natalia especially, because she liked to do things right. She was just like so embarrassed and just, had to go deal with that.
And we live in a society full of toddlers that want something right away. And we live in a society where it seems to be normal to be in debt. If you want it, just get it now and pay it later. There's a famous phrase that says, if you tell a lie often enough, loudly enough, and long enough, the myth, what you tell them will become accepted as a fact. And that was said by Adolf Hitler. So repetition, volume, and how do you say this? Longevity will twist and turn a myth or a lie into a commonly accepted way of living. And if you, sorry, go ahead.
No, that sounds like our lives today with the media. You go to every different social media, to the signs on the doors in stores, to what they're saying on the news, and it's all the same message, saying the same thing over and over and over again. And I know we've shared before that about masks, and even though there are many doctors that are saying, hey, and not just doctors, but people that deal with
OSHA,
yeah, they're saying, masks actually have risk factors, and the risk factors could be greater than the benefits because this virus is too small and it's going to pass through all these things, and these are facts. But what do we hear? That has been silenced. And the Facebook police are taking that off because they want you to get the same message. And the message is wear a mask. Wear a mask. If you care about your neighbor, you're going to wear a mask. The mask will protect you. The mask will save the world.
Yeah, and then they take this down because you mentioned it now.
Nice.
Anyway, so think about this. People make decisions emotionally and then justify them logically. The right side of your brain is the side of the emotion, the side that wants to take risks, of hopes, dreams, action. And the left side is the side of your brain that wants to keep everything in order, that assesses risk. So what does marketing do? It appeals to your right side of the brain. It lures you into wanting to have something now. When have you seen an ad of cigarettes or with somebody like cancer, emphysema in their lungs, or a tracheotomy here and they're breathing through, smoking through their tube? Or when have you seen somebody who's 400 pounds, getting drunk, or drinking alcohol
or eating ice cream,
eating that ultra processed food? No, it's always attractive, young, cool looking people.
Yeah.
They lure you into every Christmas, right? The ads with the car commercials, and if it's if the aspirational identity they're trying to sell you is to be rough and tough, it's a truck, and that's the message. If it's a sports car or a luxury car, they show people that are sophisticated and sexy and refined. So you just have to be very aware that we live in a society that thinks short term, not long term. And we saw a study done by the University of Pennsylvania about social learning. Tell us about what happened.
Yeah, so there was some kind of waiting room, and there were like 10 people in the waiting room, and a girl comes in, and all of a sudden you hear this ding, and everybody in the waiting room stands up and sits down. And the girl is just looking like, what did I miss?
Why were they standing up? They were part of the experiment. All the people that were in the room.
Told.
Except for the girl.
Yeah, the girl didn't know what was going on, but the people who were there before her all knew that. They told them, when you hear this beep, just stand up and sit down, okay? So that's the rule. And no explanation. So everyone's doing this. And the girl, after the second time, people looking at her because she didn't stand up, when it went beep, they all stood up, and she stood up with them, And then it shows that everybody gets called. It's their turn. They're not in the waiting room anymore. And she's left alone. So then it's like, what's she going to do when it beeps? Is she going to stand up? Because she doesn't know why she's standing up. Everyone else knew it was an experiment, And so it beeps, and she stands up by herself. And then she's sitting there, and someone new comes in the room, and he just sits down and opens up his magazine, and the beep happens, and she stands up. And you didn't. The guy is like looking at her like, and he even said, "What are you doing?" And she's like, "Well, I'm not sure, but when I got here, everybody stands up when it beeps and then sits down." So it beeped again, and then you're thinking, surely he's not going to do it too, but he does.
Well, he asked her, "Why are you standing up?"
Yeah, I said that.
Oh, sorry.
And she said she didn't really know, but that everyone else had been doing it. So it beeps, and she just stands up.
And the guy stands up too.
So he stands up too. And then after doing this over and over, she gets called in to her appointment, and then he's there, and somebody else walks in. So it's like, okay, is he going to keep doing it? And he does. And we look at it and we think, that's crazy. But we all do it. Like, we're so easily persuaded by words and repetition. Like, we're so vulnerable. That's just what I thought. Man, we are so vulnerable because, we're going to read some myths about debt. And it's crazy, but I've believed many of these myths. I don't even know. I don't remember getting taught. You catch things, you hear it, somebody says it, and it gets repeated and repeated. And you don't investigate it. I didn't try to find out if it was true. It was just like, everybody knows this, right? Yeah. It's just the way you do it. It's the only way.
Just so you know, we're using Dave Ramsey's book, Total Money Makeover, which has incredibly helped us throughout the years, in decades. so anyway, the first myth: debt is a tool and should be used to create prosperity. Truth: debt adds considerable risk, most often doesn't bring prosperity, and isn't used by wealthy people nearly as much as we are led to believe. See, we're told that debt is like a fulcrum and lever. That's what you say? Okay. Mm-hmm. Allows to live what otherwise we could not. But it's a double-edged sword. There's a factor that nobody mentions, and it's an intangible factor, and that is the risk factor. Actually, if you talk to an actuary, he would tell you, somebody who assesses risk in a company, they will tell you that risk has a very tangible factor that goes into account onto any mathematical equation. The problem is that we forget that we are emotional beings, that we act by emotion, and we, no matter how calculated your risk was, you can mess it up by doing